I started my career in the motor trade back in 1992. Now that was 33 years ago, which feels like an awful long time to me. But as far as car manufacturers are concerned, it is but a drop in the ocean, because just 12 months prior to that is when Kia first arrived on UK shores, and that was with just one car, a rebadged version of the old generation of the Mazda 121 that they called the Kia Pride. Now in those intervening years, all that's happened to me is I've got a little bit older, a bit thinner on the top, and a little bit more fuller round about here. But Kia has gone on to considerably more success, because not only do they have a full range of cars now, including hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and some of the best electric cars that you can have, but they are challenging and in some cases beating the very best of the European cars. And if that's not enough for them, they've got one of the best selling cars in the UK, the Kia Sportage. And now it just got a little bit better. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the newly updated Kia Sportage. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now many will credit Nissan's Qashqai with starting the whole crossover trend that saw these SUV-esque style vehicles be the default family car of choice rather than ubiquitous C-sector 5-door family hatchbacks such as the Escort and Focus, the Golf and the Astra and the Peugeot 308. But Kia would argue with that, saying that it was actually the Sportage that really started that trend. And we do love a Sportage here in the UK, so much so that we've bought over 470,000 of them across their 5 generations. But that's not the impressive number, because globally the car has achieved sales in excess of 7 million units since it was launched. And of course Kia, they've gone from strength to strength over the last 33 years, especially when it comes to electrification. Their electric cars such as the EV3, the EV6, the EV9, they're some of the best electric cars that you can buy on the planet today. And of course, with cars such as the Sportage and their other combustion engine cars, they're electrifying those as well through the hybrids and plug-in hybrids. So this is a really important update for the Sportage, because this is Kia's best-selling car. It accounts for over 40% of their sales here in the UK. So what have they done to this new one to improve it? And question is, have they? Let's find out. But before we do that, let's take a look at the main points of the new Kia Sportage. So this 5th generation Sportage will come with a choice of either pure petrol, petrol hybrids, or soon a plug-in hybrid to broaden the appeal of Kia's best-selling model. The car features new styling as well as new interior and enhanced specifications as well as technology. The range has been simplified to just 3 trim levels, either the pure GT line that we have here or GT line S. All cars are powered by a 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol engine with the further choice of hybrid and later this year plug-in hybrid electrical assistance. There's a choice of manual and automatic transmissions as well as 2-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options depending on model. And prices start at just under £31,000 and climb to just under £44,000 depending on the model chosen. So new styling, new tech, new specifications. What else is new about this car to make sure that Kia remains at the very, very top of people's list when it comes to this style of C-sector SUV? Well, let's stick it through a House of Cars road test review and find out. But before we do that, can I just ask you to make sure you are subscribed to the House of Cars channel. And once you've watched the video, if you do enjoy it, which I hope you do, make sure you give a little thumbs up and of course, as usual, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Right, let's get started, shall we? Now, if you're a regular viewer of House of Cars, or better still, a subscriber, thank you very much if you are. You might know that I did a studio walk around with the new Sportage earlier this year, but of course I've got the car to review now. And of course it follows Kia's design theme, Opposites United, or Opposites Unite, whatever it is, which is all guff to me in fairness, because they still talk about this digital tiger nose. Still don't know what that is, but there you go, that's what it has. And like the other cars in the Kia range that they've been sort of facelifting to bring in line with this design language, it gets the star map DRLs and the vertically stacked headlights. Now normally when a car manufacturer sort of grafts a new nose and tail onto it, because effectively this is a very heavily facelifted version of the Sportage that's just stopped. It sometimes can look a little bit disjointed, but I don't think the Sportage does, because the previous car had those distinctive boomerang style lights. So actually this works really, really well, I think. I think this is a really good looking car, very distinctive, and as I say, it brings it in line with all the other models within the Kia range that they've brought this style to. So of course cars such as, well, we've reviewed on here, the Picanto and the Sorento, and then over on Auto EV I've done cars such as the EV3, the EV6. Don't think it works quite so well in the EV6, the new star map style lights, I'm not sure about that, but there you go. And of course the brilliant EV9. Now there's also going to be a sort of electric version of the Sportage, in the sense that it's going to sit in the same class as the Sportage. It's not an electric Sportage, I've got to be clear about that, and that's going to be called the EV5. So if you want a sort of sneak peek of that car, I'll pop a link there because I've done that over on Auto EV. But yeah, so I think it's a good looking car. Now, 3 trim levels, pure GT line and GT line S. This is the mid-spec GT line, which Kia reckon will be their biggest seller. We'll talk about trims and prices and stuff like later on. So it gets that sort of more sporting style at the front, if you like. So lots of gloss black. So across the grille here, and of course the lower cooling section there. Your fog light sort of like surrounds are sort of done in that kind of glossy black here. No chrome on the car. We'll go around that a bit later on, but of course you get the brushed sort of like aluminium style Kia badge there. But I just think it looks great. I think they've done a really good job. You get your big radar sensor for the forward-facing cruise control there, parking sensors across the front. You don't get a forward-facing camera on the GT line, and we'll go on to talk about trims and options and stuff later on. But overall, I think this is a really good looking car. As I say, it looks like it was designed to have this style on it right from day one. But as I say, it is quite just a big heavy facelift to the car that was before, but a successful one, I feel. Now, size-wise, it hasn't really changed over the previous car. I think it's a tiny bit longer because of the new front and rear bumpers, but effectively it's the same overall dimensions. So much so you're not going to make any difference, you know. It's still a C-segment SUV, so it's that style of car, as I say, Nissan Qashqai, you know, Ford Kuga, Volkswagen, Tiguan, those style of cars as seen as its competition, but we'll get on to that a bit later on. Remember, as I say, 3 trim levels now, so they've streamlined the range a little bit. So rather than the old 2, 3 and 4 and whatever it was before, you now get pure GT line S. This is the mid-spec GT line, as I say. Pure models get 17-inch alloy wheels as standard. GT line and GT line S get 19-inch alloy wheels as standard. You get obviously the option as well of 2-wheel drive or all-wheel drive on the car, depending on the model as well. But in terms of the design, what's changed? Well, not really an awful lot from the side. Gone is the sort of chrome. That's what I was talking about, this sort of chrome area that was up here, and this area down here has changed a little bit as well, down at the lower half of the door. But it's pretty much as was before, which, as I say, was a good-looking car previously, and that hasn't changed with this. It's still distinctive, it still looks like a Kia, but it brings it much more in line with the rest of the Kia family with this new design language. And it's pretty much a muchness around the back. As I say, it's just a heavily facelifted car. You do get the new star map rear lights as well, which again I think really work well with the car. Of course, you get slightly different, so like lower half of the bumper area there. High mounted spoiler, roof spoiler there with the high level brake light in there, and of course the rear wiper tucked right up underneath there, which still gives you the uncluttered look across the back window, but still having the practicality of a rear wiper. Other manufacturers, please note how Kia and some other manufacturers do that, because I think that's a really interesting thing. And I say it certainly pleases me to see a rear wiper on the car. Of course, usual badging, Sportage, this is the GT line there, and you get the brushed Kia logo across the back. You get a little reverse camera in there because the GT line gets the reverse camera, plus parking sensors, and of course your reverse lights down there. But as I say, it's pretty much as we've seen before. I like it, but it doesn't really matter what I think. It's more important what you think, because you might be out there looking to buy a Kia Sportage. Do you like the new facelift? Do you prefer the older car? Do you prefer the generation previous to that? Have you got that car? Are you tempted to trade up? Or are you not liking this whole opposites united, digital tigers, whatever they're talking about, way that Kia are going with the design language? Whatever it is, whatever your thoughts are, let me know them in the comment section down below. Now, as I say, this size of car is pretty much your default family car now. Now, this is the hybrid, okay, which, believe it or not, has the biggest boot at 577 litres. If you go down to the combustion engine car, then it's 562 litres. And if you go for the plug-in hybrid, which is coming out later this year, then that goes down to 540 litres, but that's still a lot of boot space. And you've got a 40-20-40 split across the back, which is quite handy because obviously you can put the centre section down, still carry 2 passengers and have a good load through. If you do that on this hybrid, they'll take total capacity up to 1,776 litres, so that's quite a lot. There's also some good underfloor storage as well, believe it or not, so there's lots of little troughs in there, and it's all nicely finished, so you can drop things in there. There's also, I think, a slot as well, if I remember correctly. Yes, there is. If you take your parcel shelf off, you can store it underneath the boot floor, which is something I do like. And you can also fold down the rear seats just by pulling down on these levers, which will drop the rear seats down. Do the suitcases fit? Yes, of course they do. Even the big suitcase, which goes right at the back there, if you put it up against the back of the the backs of the back seat, they'll go there. There's a medium size one there. There's a carry-on in there, and there's our other carry-on, which goes in there, and you've still got a little bit of space there for a rucksack or for some jackets and stuff. It doesn't seem to suffer too much from one thing that I do notice about some of the electric Kias and Hyundais as well, in fairness, which is quite a shallow boot. So although the volume is there in floor space, it's quite shallow from the actual floor to the parcel shelf, but that's not too bad. So you can go get all the suitcases in, plus the blind covered, plus obviously the hatchback down as well. And it's quite a nice flat load entry in as well. So whilst it's still an SUV, you've still got to lift the cases up. There isn't a drop down into the actual boot floor, which is quite handy, of course, for getting your luggage out, or if you're looking at things like such as if you're limited in mobility and you've got things such as walking frames or wheelchairs and you're trying to lift them out of the boot. So yeah, it's still as practical as a Sportage has always been. Right, rear space. It's all right, isn't it? You know, that's my driving position. I'm 5'8". You sit quite nice and high, so you get a nice view forward. Good knee room, as you'd expect. Also a transmission tunnel, because obviously the car is combustion engine, so there's a transmission tunnel there. So 3 across, your centre person's going to have to deal with that. There's reasonable storage. You know, you get elasticated mat pockets in the backs of both front seats. You get nice little hooks there as well for hanging bags off, and you can hang your jacket on the top of the Grumpy Robot seat back, which is there. You've also got the USB-C ports in the side of the 2 front seats, which is nice and handy. There are door bins. They're really shallow, you know, in terms of, you know, they're not particularly long that way, but you'll probably get a water bottle in them, so that's fine. But of course, you also do have a centre armrest, which does feel quite short, but in fairness, it's all right, and you certainly get 2 holders for water bottles that are in there. Isofix points, yep, they're nice and easy to get to. They're just the brackets are between the rear backrest and the squab as well, and the seat itself is quite a nice length, so the comfort is good. So yeah, on the whole, it's exactly as you'd expect for a Sportage. It's not really any different. There's some rear climate controls in the back, this GT line, with some vents there as well, so there's good ventilation if you've got kids or the dogs in the back. And despite that sort of slightly rise of the window line there, it's not enough to make you feel too claustrophobic. GT Line S gets the panoramic sunroof, but you can't have it on any of the other cars, so you can't option it on the Pure or the GT line. So if you do like the big glass panoramic sunroof, then you've got to go for a GT Line S. But you do get this dark headlining, but in fairness, it doesn't feel too claustrophobic back here. There's certainly enough space. So yeah, it's as you would expect. It's a decent size for a family. Bit like the outside design has been brought in line with all the other Kia models. Same with the interior. So you'll see a big change to the sort of dashboard here. However, interestingly enough, where they've got those vertical vents in the old car, you can still see the mouldings for them there, but they've managed to disguise them quite well with this new screen. Yeah, you're not going to change the whole tooling for that, are you, I suppose? But you now get this twin 12.3-inch display across. So of course you get your infotainment system there, and of course you get this very clear driver cluster here, which I really do like, and I'll talk about in a little second. I think, again, a bit like the exterior, it's a really nice update on the inside of the car, and the bits they've changed, you know, really modernise it and bring it in line with other Kia models without having to do too much to it, and without being too avant-garde, dare I suggest. There's still physical buttons, which is good, and we'll talk about them in a second. But as I say, you get the new Kia
Well, we'll say the new Kia, but it is sort of the new Kia dashboard here. So let's have a quick look. You get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Here you go. Here you now also get things such as ChatGPT, which is still a little bit in its infancy, I think, in the automotive landscape, but it will change, obviously. You also get connected services, so for things such as YouTube, there's other entertainment packages you can have as well, but you need to subscribe to them. Some manufacturers, Genesis, for instance, which is also part of the Hyundai group, as is Kia, you get that for 3 years with the GV60, but that's a more premium product. You want it in the Sportage, you got to pay for it. So that's your lot. But the screen itself is really nice and slick. It's always been nice to use. It's always been very easy to use. It's really, really quick to respond to your touch. As I say, you get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you'll probably just to default to anyway. But obviously, as I say, you can set up profiles, as you can see there. There's the manual, which is online, and then there's various slightly different settings you can go in to change. So there you go there. So there's your vehicle settings, your navigation, your sound settings, connecting phone. It's laid out in a really nice, easy way to get to, and I think even if you're not particularly tech savvy, that is fairly straightforward to navigate your way through and do things simple, like such as connect your phone up, go on to CarPlay and stuff like that. It just takes a few seconds. There's also voice recognition as well, which is quite good, and various bits and pieces like that, he says. Where am I going? Where are we going here? There we go, back to sort of like normal there, and then you go back to your CarPlay, which is nice because it's, as I say, it's nice and bright and up in there. Now, most people just default to that. You don't get a head-up display in the car. In the GT line, you have to move up to the GT line S to get that, and that's a little bit of my beef here. Now, I was really fortunate on the media launch last week. If you're wondering why my review's a bit later than everyone else, it's very, very simple. When I was going to the media launch, Kia said, did I want a car to take away after the event and use for a week and get used to it? And I said, yes, please, because I've been quite busy, which meant I wasn't really under massive strain to get a video filmed there and then on the day. So it allowed me the time to actually drive more cars. So I actually drove all models. And I'll talk about that more when we go out driving it. But I drove all 3 trim levels as well. So I drove the Pure, the GT Line S, and of course I've got this GT line, which I took away with me. My only slight beef with Kia, and I was talking to somebody from them, they say, is certain things such as options that you can't have. You've got to buy the next model up if you want it. Now, Kia aren't alone in this, in fairness to them. But for instance, the Pure model, the starter, the range, the lead-in car to the range, if you like the Pure but just want to add heated seats, you can't. You've got to buy a GT line, which means more money. You've got to spend, you actually move up in the model ranking. And it's like I was saying, if you want the panoramic sunroof and you want a Pure, you can't have it. You've got to go all the way to the top of the range GT Line S to get the panoramic sunroof. And it's things like, this is a GT line, but it doesn't have wireless charging. Now, a wireless charging pad, I don't mean to be funny, it's not, I don't think it's a luxury these days. Maybe I'm wrong, but it would be nice just to have wireless charging pad. You can't have it on a GT line. You've got to go to a GT Line S. So there isn't things like tech packs you can add to it. If you want a GT, you think, well, actually what I want is a Pure, and I want the winter pack and the tech pack, and I'm happy. Can't have that. You've got to go up in grades in terms of the trim levels. So there's a couple of little things that I do find a little bit disappointing. So as I say, GT line doesn't get a head-up display and you can't option it. It doesn't get a sunroof and you can't option it. It doesn't get wireless charging, you can't option it. You've got to go into GT Line S. What is good, however, is they've done away with the piano black. Yay! Well, there's a tiny strip there. Not so much you'll notice it. But look, no piano black. It's wonderful. Look, it's got this nice sort of like textured graphite sort of plastic finish here, which is really nice. It's just, yeah, it looks good. It's clean. It's crisp. It's nice quality. You've got a nice damping on that little lid there, that slides backwards and forwards. It feels fairly premium. I like that. Great. No more piano black. And new design of steering wheel as well, which is very similar to the EV3 and the Air and the EV6 Air and the EV9 Air. I think it's that same steering wheel as well. Really nice to hold, nice shape, flattened off at the top and bottom. Gives you a good view through into the driver's display, which I'm going to talk about now as well. So the driver's display is really crisp and clear. It's another 12.3-inch screen, and you get your speedometer on the left and a rev counter on the right, which is a numerical rev counter. So at the moment it's obviously doing 1.3 times 1000 RPM. So you soon get used to that. But what's interesting is on the hybrid that this one is, when it's running on electric assistance, because it slips in and out on its own accord, it's nice to be driving along and you see that at 0. It's quite cool. I quite like that, the fact that it just sits there at 0 and you know that it's running as an EV, and it just comes up with a little green EV symbol down there as well. But I really like the design of this. This is a really nice, crisp and clear dash to look at, and you get some nice green graphics around the side if you're in the eco mode. If you move to the sport mode, they go red, you know, as you'd expect. And that's quite nice. There's only the 2 modes, Eco and Sport, but I'll talk about that when we go out in the car. Just very quickly as well, turning off the advanced driver assistance systems has always been really, really easy in the Kias, and it still is now. So if you press and hold the volume button on for 3 seconds on the steering wheel, speed limit warning sound is off. So that takes that off. And if you press and hold the little lane keep assist button on the steering wheel for 3 seconds, that then glows orange from the green, and that means that's off as well. So it's as simple as that. You don't need to dive into the screen to change that. It does have the really nice sort of flip screen down here for the climate control. I've always liked this. I think it came out on the Nero, and then it, you know, and as I say, it then went on to EV6 and stuff. So at the moment it's showing you the climate control. So you get the physical controls for the actual temperature either side, and then along here you've got your airflow distribution. So it's touch screen, yeah, but it works, and you get that nice little beep to tell you've activated it. And then your fan speed, really nice and easy to use. But then if I touch the arrow here, that then flips to be the audio system. So you've now got volume control over here, you've got tuning on this side, you've got track search in the middle rather than fan speed, and then of course you can go to your map for your actual Kia navigation, to your media system, your media control into there, and then into your setup menu from there. So shortcut buttons there, and then you just flip it there and it goes back to the climate control. I really like that dual role that that little panel has. It's really nicely integrated. I've always liked it. It works well, and despite the fact that it obviously is a screen, the fact that when you touch it you get that feedback to let you know you've done it works, and of course you get the physical knobs on the side to control either volume or tuning, so that's good as well. This area here is different if you go for the manual car, okay? Now obviously you don't have the manual gearbox, the manual gear stick there, but also as well the actual design of it, it's higher when you go for you know, the hybrid, because obviously it comes with the automatic transmission. So the storage is slightly different, it's slightly different layout as well. And you do notice, because the car that I drove, the manual car that I drove was the pure trim, you do notice the blank buttons, you know, when you don't have certain things. You've got them here as well, you know, so you've got heated seats either side, heated steering wheel, and then there's 2 blank buttons. And that's because in the GT Line S you get ventilated seats in the front, okay? So that's why you get 2 blanking switches there. A little bit disappointing, but I can understand why it's there. It's not the end of the world. I'm more concerned with the fact you don't get a wireless charging pad, but that does give you quite a nice little storage bit in there, and there's USB-C ports in there, and there is also, he says, a 12-volt socket in this armrest. The other nice thing I like with Kia is this cubby box in here has a bit of carpet on the bottom of it, just a little square of carpet. That makes all the difference. You know, you're chucking your keys in there, they don't rattle around. I like that. Well done, Kia. And you get some nice physical controls and buttons around here. So your parking sensors, your parking, well, your reverse camera, your auto hold. Now, is that cruise or is that hill descent? I can never remember. I think that's hill descent control. Yes, it is hill descent control there. And then, of course, you get this rotary transmission here if you go for the automatic or the auto box or the hybrid cars, plus an engine start. But as I say, the physical design of this is much different if you go for the manual car, and it's not just this console with a manual gear stick on it, it's different. There's good storage, as I say. You've got this nice console there, you've got some decent door bins there. They are not lined. It'd be nice to see the carpet in the bottom of them, Kia, but never mind, there we go. You do get this excellent thing here, 2 cup holders. I've got myself a new big water bottle to test these cars with. You get the fold away cup holders, so if you don't want to carry cups with you, you fold them away and then you just got a nice open area there, or you press the button and they slide out, and then you've got 2 holders there for your water bottle and your coffee cup. Really like that. Right, seats. Seats are excellent, really, really comfortable. I did a lot of miles in this car the other day. I drove the other cars, you know, as I say, in the range at the launch event. I was out for, an hour on each of those, plus then I've been using this car over the last week. The GT Line S, you get this bio PU leather and sort of Alcantara trim, which is a really nice, you know, this black and sort of cream finish. This looks really good. But as I say, even the standard pure model with its all cloth seats, the seats are really comfortable and they're really nice, very supportive. You get an excellent driving position. You don't get electric seats until you go to the GT Line S, obviously. But you do get height adjustment on the seat. The squab's long enough so it has a good support behind the backs of your knees. You also get a manual reach and rake adjustment on the steering column, so you get an excellent driving position, and you sit nice and high in the car, so good visibility out. And of course this screen is at a level you can still see it, but it doesn't interrupt any of your view out of the car. It's a really good interior, I have to say. The only thing, as I say, that irks me a little bit is the fact that you can't have certain bits of equipment unless you spend a lot more money. You know, and of course Kia say, well, you know, it makes it easy for customers then, they don't have to worry about choosing option packs and stuff like that. I think in reality what it means is we want you to spend more money and choose the next model up. I think that's what they want. But there you go. It's a good interior. It all works well. There's enough physical controls in the car, decent amount of storage. They've done away with the piano black, which is brilliant. That screen's easy to use. I love this little screen in here, and the design of it works really well for me. So yes, another brilliant interior from Kia. Right, this is relatively straightforward and simple because they all use the same engine in Sportage now, okay? So diesels are gone, it's just petrol engine that you get, and it's either pure petrol, a hybrid, which this car is, or later a plug-in hybrid is going to become available. If you go for the straightforward pure petrol, it's 147 brake horsepower, front wheel drive, and it delivers drive through either a 6-speed manual transmission or a 7-speed DCT transmission, okay? If you move to this hybrid, it adds a 44.2 kilowatt electric motor, which takes total power output to 235 horsepower, and it drives through a 6-speed automatic transmission. And you can have that car with the choice of either two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive with various different terrain modes which you activate from the driver's seat. As I say, in a few months' time, we're going to get a plug-in hybrid, which will up the power again to probably somewhere over 260 horsepower, but that's for another review at another time. Right, shall we take it for a drive and let you know what I think? Yeah, let's do that, shall we? Now, you're probably wondering why my review of this is a bit later than everyone else's, when I was there at the launch with everyone else. Here's the thing. I was quite fortunate because when I said I was going to go to the launch, Kia then said to me, well, you're on sort of like the last day of the rotation. Do you just want to take a car home with you and keep it for a week? Whereas everyone else just went there for the day and drove a car that day and filmed with it that day. I've actually had this car for a week now, I've been driving it around for a week. Which meant I wasn't really under any great pressure to film there and then on the day, which also meant what I could do was drive more cars. So what I decided to do was I drove every model in the range over the, sort of like the same sort of test route, if you like. And the first car I drove was the pure trim with the standard 1.6 petrol engine and the manual gearbox. I tell you what, it's been a while since I've been on a press launch where I drove a new car that had a manual gearbox. What a delight that car is to drive. What an absolute delight. The gearbox, this 6-speed manual, is so lovely. Honestly, it's such a nice car to drive. Really slick gear shift, quite a light clutch. The shift itself really slots home with just oily precision, really nice light throw. Lovely. Genuinely now, if you're going to go for the manual car, you will love that because it drove beautifully. And in that 1.6 petrol engine, it's 147 horsepower. It's just under 150 nags that are going through the front wheels. 0 to 60 dips below 10 seconds. I think it's about 9.7 seconds. The next car I drove was a GT Line S hybrid all-wheel drive. So the same engine, this car, 235 horsepower, which is quite nice, quite a nice amount of power, and that brings the 0 to 60 time down to about 7.6 seconds, something like that. So quite quick, it's quite brisk, quite like it. Was there a big difference? Yes. Was it better? No. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, the GT Line S, like this GT Line, sits on 19-inch alloy wheels as opposed to the 17-inch that the Pure gets. But because it's also the all-wheel drive in the hybrid, it's 170 kilograms heavier than that pure one was, and that made a bit of a difference. In terms of its ride quality, I found it, yeah, the pure was by far the more compliant and supple car. There's no doubt in my mind the GT Line S all-wheel drive was quite firm, not uncomfortable, I don't want to call it uncomfortable, but you noticed every little imperfection on the road, every little change of surface, every little ridge or pothole or whatever, you felt it. It came through the car. It didn't have quite the level of suppleness that the pure model did, and that's obviously down to the fact that, as I say, it's got 2 inches more on the alloy wheels and it's a heavier car as well. And obviously they've stiffened the suspension a little bit to compensate for that, and you notice it. This is the middle car, okay? So it's the 2-wheel drive hybrid GT line. So it's 60 kilos lighter than the all-wheel drive car. So a bit heavier than the pure 1.6 petrol, and not as heavy as the GT line. It doesn't carry the weight penalty, obviously, with the all-wheel drive system. Is it sort of like the best of the three? It depends what you're after. Obviously, it gives the better performance than the standard 1.6 non-hybrid car, so there's a bit more performance, and the ride isn't quite as brittle as it was in the GT Line S all-wheel drive, but it's not, again, as compliant as it was in the pure model, because obviously it's got the 19-inch wheels. Okay, I hope all that made sense, but this is a nice compromise, that's what I'm going to say. So again, easy to understand why Kia think this is going to be the biggest selling car of the range, and I can understand that, and I could probably go along with that as well, because this is a really nice car. I was very fortunate to sort of, drive away in this car and spend a bit of time with it. Drove it on the motorway, really nice in the motorway, nice and quiet, it's nice and refined. As I say, away from sort of like the sort of broken surfaces that we've got around here, on the more open road and the flatter motorway, you got a really nice sort of like ride compliancy in it as well, which you would have got in the 17-inch wheels. But when you go off the motorway and you're on the more back roads, yeah, you feel a little bit more, of a jiggly chassis, if that makes sense. The upside, however, is better body control. Stays a bit flatter through the bends. There isn't quite so much lean in the car as you get in the pure, because obviously it squidges down on those thicker sidewalls on the 17-inch wheels. There you go, that's your trade-off. You've got 2 modes with the car, which is nice, just the 2, Eco or Sport. And if you're in Eco mode, you've got 2 paddles behind the gear, I keep saying this, 2 paddles behind the steering wheel, okay? And what these will do is alter the brake regen, okay? So what it will do is it will, a bit like electric cars do, you can have a form of brake regeneration which will harness power and feed it back into the electrical system, into the small battery, so it can then drive on electric power, and that's how it feeds it. You don't have to plug it in overnight or anything, okay? So you've got 3 levels of brake regen, that's what you get. If you move into the sport mode, okay, if I just press that and it goes into sport mode, these paddles now alter the gear shift, okay? So you can now change gear yourself. It's the 6-speed auto, remember, that you get with the hybrid system, not the DCT box. So now it will hold on to the gears longer, and it waits for you to upshift using the right paddle or downshift using the left paddle, okay? You can't do that when it's in Eco mode, because that will just alter the brake regen, and you can't obviously alter the brake regen when you're in sport mode, because they become gear shift paddles, okay? Nice and straightforward. But I do quite like the fact you've just got the 2 modes. There's none of this Eco, Comfort, Sport, and then a personal mode in there. That's quite nice. What's the rest of it like? Really very nice. I can understand why Kia sells so many of these cars. This is a really nice car. This will maybe sound like I'm damning it with a little bit of faint praise, but I mean this in the nicest possible way. The nicest thing about this car is almost how easily it slips into your life. It's a bit like a Golf. It does everything so well, so competently, that it becomes almost forgettable, in the sense that you don't really think about it. It just gets on with the job. It rides well, it steers nice, the steering's got a nice sort of like feedback to the wheel. It's not too heavy, it's not ridiculously light. I think it's an 11-metre turning circle the car's got, so it's manoeuvrable enough if you're in, like Sainsbury's car park or Tesco's or whatever you want to do there. So it's nice and easy that way. But when you're on a bit of a back road, it's okay. You're not going to make the kids feel sick. That's what I'm trying to say. I'll tell you what I do like about it though is the brakes. Away from the brake regen, the actual brakes themselves, they've got really good brakes on this car. They're really, there's nothing behind me, let me just, well, hang on, wait till I get a bit of a clear road here, right? If I just, yeah, it's a really progressive pedal. There's no step at all, there's no sponginess. It just all the way down and it really draws the car up to a stop. Really like the brakes, really good on this car. I want to talk a little bit about the hybrid system as well, because it's really imperceptible when it flips from hybrid electric mode into combustion engine mode. Sorry, just go through my wee width restriction there. It's literally imperceptible when it does it. In fact, I left home this morning, I was taking my daughter to school this morning, and we left our driveway and I got to the bottom of our road and it had just been running purely on electric power. And you genuinely didn't, you just didn't notice it. And then I pulled out of the road end and then the engine was on, and the only way you could tell really is you can see the rev counter. It's this numerical sort of like counter here on the side here. It's sitting there showing 00 at the moment, so that it's driving on EV, and you get the little EV light on there. But if I put my foot down a bit harder, or it sort of like uses all its power, the engine kicks in and you barely notice it at all. Some cars, the Renault Rafale the Austral is a little bit like that. You sort of hear the engine coming in. You don't really on the Sportage. The only time you really hear the engine is if you really gun it, if you really try and extend it. And to be honest with you, there's no real need to do that. You know, the car just, it's got a nice ton. See, there you go, the engine's on now. And it's only in the upper revs does it become audible to you inside the cabin. And on the motorway and things, it flips between the two. It just does it all on its own. So that's really good. And as I say, it's a nice gateway for a lot of people. You know, if you're thinking of, I don't know, you're maybe thinking, I quite fancy the electric car thing, but I'm still not sure about it. Or I don't have the ability to plug a plug-in hybrid in because of on-street parking. This is nice. This really works well. Dashboard's nice and easy to read, as I was saying to you earlier. The other nice thing is how easy it is to turn off the ADAS systems. So if you press and hold the volume button on the steering wheel now for 3 seconds, it switches the speed limit sound warning off. Okay. Same with the lane keep assist. Press and hold that. That then turns that off. Okay, 3 seconds turns it off. There's not really an awful lot more to say. It's a comfortable driving position. You sit nice and high in the car. It's relatively quiet. It's relatively refined. There's a little bit of wind noise, but not an awful lot that you'd say it's noisy, not at all. I will say this, not having the sunroof makes the headroom quite nice. Now, I'm not tall, I'm only 5'8", and it's funny because Peter Greaves, Petrol Ped, was with me in the day, and I meant to ask him to go and sit in a GT Line S because I thought that sunroof ate into a lot of the headroom. I could notice it when I was sat there, and it'd been interesting. He's well over 6 foot. It'd been interesting to see how he felt with that. But actually, you know, in this one, it's comfortable. It's a comfortable seat, beautiful seat for doing the long journey in, light steering wheel, great driving position, good visibility, non-intrusive ADAS systems. There's lane keep assist 2, I think now, so there's a bit more autonomy with it, where the car, you know, you will change lane for you on the motorway, but if you don't want that, you can turn it off. It's just a good car. Is it the best car in its class? No. Is it easy to understand why it's the most popular? Absolutely. This is a good car, and I like it. Right, now as I said, they've sort of simplified the range, kind of, okay? So there's 3 trim levels. There's the Pure, which is the sort of the lead-in car, which effectively replaces the old 2 and 3 trim grade you used to get in the old car. So it's a combination of those two. Then it's GT Line, which this car is. Then it's GT Line S, okay? And then you can vary sort of like drivetrain within that, depending obviously within limitations in that sense. So your range kicks off with the manual transmission, standard petrol engine, pure at £30,885. Okay, so that's your starter for 10. If you want to move up to a hybrid but still have the pure trim level, then it's £34,425. Okay, so just under another £4,000 to get a pure with the hybrid drivetrain. Right, the GT line, which this car is the one that Kia reckon will be the big seller, which is why I took this car away with me that day, because I thought I'll review the car that most people are going to buy, which is a GT line with the hybrid drivetrain. Okay, but you can have a GT line with the standard petrol engine and the manual gearbox. Okay, so if you go for that car, that is £33,385. So you like the 1.6 manual, but you want the GT line spec, it's £33,385. Okay, or if you like the standard 1.6 litre petrol engine, you don't want a hybrid, but you want it to have the automatic transmission, then you get it with a 7-speed DCT gearbox, and that goes up to £35,085. Okay, so a little bit more money. If you like the GT line and you want the hybrid, which obviously this car is, and as I say, Kia say will be the big seller, then of course it comes with a 6-speed automatic transmission only, and that is £36,925. Okay, so that's the car I've got here. Now, here's the thing, you go then and move up to the GT line S, and that comes with either the standard petrol engine, so non-hybrid, with the DCT transmission. But the problem is, it just tips over that £40,000 with that luxury car supplement taxes here in the UK. That car is £40,285. Come on, Kia, that is a £39,995 car if ever I saw it. That's the problem. Car prices have gone up, but that car tax thing, that luxury car supplement, hasn't moved in accordance with those realigned prices of manufacturers. So the government's not changing it, so I think the manufacturers need to change it. That to me is a £39,995 car to sneak it into that 40 grand bracket. It just makes sense, surely. It doesn't even matter if you get a discount from your dealer. It won't make any difference because it goes on list price. So I'm a bit surprised at that, if I'm honest with you. Anyway, there we go. That's a GT Line S with the DCT transmission. However, if you go for a hybrid, then it's 42,125. Okay, so the GT Line S hybrid is 42,125. But if you want it with all-wheel drive, which you can have on the GT Line S, then it's £43,725. Okay, so it's a broad price range from just under 31,000 to just over 43,000 at the moment. Of course, as I say, the plug-in hybrid is coming out in a few months' time. That will obviously add to the range, but of course there'll probably be more prices on that. They haven't told us whether it's going to be available across all three trim levels or not, but I would think in terms of plug-in hybrid, it's probably going to be somewhere in the mid £40,000 for that car. But every new Sportage, obviously being a Kia, comes with a 7-year warranty that you get with all new Kias as standard. Now, this is a huge market space, and pretty much everyone's got a car in it, because I say it's sort of the default family car sector now, isn't it? These sort of like C-sector SUVs. And there's plenty to choose from, which is why I've still got my iPad, because there's so many to list here. So what's it going to compete with? Well, of course, from within the sort of like the Hyundai group, Hyundai have the Tucson, which is their equivalent of the Sportage. Okay, so there's the Tucson. There's the Ford Kuga. Massive, you know, that was a car that's been on the go for ages and been a massive seller over the years. There's the Renault Rafale. That's another good hybrid family sort of like C-sector, sort of like SUV. The Peugeot 3008, there's the Honda ZR-V, the Nissan Qashqai, that's just got an upgrade as well with the new e-power transmission. It's a drivetrain that's in that car. NGHS, that's a huge seller in the UK as well. And of course, you know, we were talking at the beginning though, 33 years ago, Kia were a new player in the market. Well, of course, since they've been here, there's been a lot more new players in the market. These guys are sort of like one of the establishment now, almost, aren't they? So we've got cars such as the JQ. Now, they've had huge success since they launched in the UK in 2025 with the JQ7. That's a competitor, and of course, Amoda's their sister brand. They've got the Amoda 5, which is their equivalent in this sector as well. So they're two cars that you're probably going to consider. And of course, there's been more brands. Chery, that's another manufacturer that's just launched into the UK. And again, like Kia with the Sportage, they're sort of like aiming at the family SUV market, giving you a lot of car for, dare I suggest, not a lot of money. So they're after your money as well. Of course, Kia, the problem is you put yourself on a pedestal, there's more and more people going to try and knock you off it. That's the situation that they've got. Now, of course, there's plenty more to discuss, but we could be here forever. I was telling you about every single car in this market space. But as I said right at the beginning as well, you know, Kia have got quite a clever sort of like plan in place in terms of their electrified cars as well. So if you are into electric cars and a Sportage is exactly what you're after, then there is a sort of version of it coming, the EV5. It's not an electric Sportage, I've got to be clear about that. It is a separate car. It sits on a bespoke platform, the eGMP platform. So it is a bespoke electric car. But that car might take some sales from this one if you're the buyer that would normally have had one of these, but quite fancies going electric for the first time. So that's a car that you might also consider if you've been a Sportage driver up until now. It's evident that Kia have chosen a path that says evolution rather than revolution when it comes to the new Sportage, and I can understand why. After all, why risk sort of throwing away all the attributes you've built up over the last 5 generations of the car just to do something a little bit different? They haven't done that. And this is a massively important car for Kia, remember. Over 40% of the sales in the UK are made up of Sportages, and it's easy to understand why. Is it the best car that Kia makes? No. Is it the best car in its class? Probably also no. Is it easy to understand why it's the most popular, however? Absolutely. And after all, if it's not broke, why try and fix it? Thank you for watching another road test review on House of Cars. Please remember to make sure you are subscribed to the channel. For those of you who already have done, thank you ever so much. Once you've done that, make sure you turn on your notifications, because there's going to be a lot more from the channel and you won't want to miss it. So of course, if you turn on your notifications, you'll get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you've enjoyed this week's review, give it a little thumbs up, and as always, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of Kia's new Sportage? The right move just to be a slightly evolutionary update, or would you rather have seen something completely different from them? Have you got the old car? Do you prefer it? Have you never had a Kia before and now you're tempted? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Now remember, if you're into social media and you would like to follow me, I'm over on Instagram and it's at House of Cars 1973. So if you give me a follow there, I would certainly appreciate it. And remember, whether or not it is a new car or an old car, a small car or a large car, a slow car or a fast car, you'll find them all here in the House of Cars. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.